Anna is ready to answer. Yeah, please do.
I'd just like to ask Professor McCants if she can tell us exactly, where was the research element in it? Because it comes across to me as being a project as opposed to research. Because for me, I'm happy to move away from more traditional ideas of research and to look at other definitions. But when I look at the video and from what you've said, I don't see any research questions there or anything that... It comes across to me as being more a project rather than research as such.
We certainly didn't begin devising the class with the idea that our students were going to be doing research. We did begin with the MIT notion that undergraduates should all participate in a research project, because that's a long-standing tradition at MIT, and we said to ourselves, let's modify that a little bit and work with a group of students on something that essentially we want to recreate rather than, discover the first time. But one of the things I've learned from the Foch-Tour Railroad project is that for the engineers who are involved, who are actually trying to understand how a 19th century railroad was built, that is a form of research. Even if you're just trying to, in some sense, understand how to make something that we already learned how to make once. So I think there could be a piece of that. But I would say that my goal in participating in this class was really as a historian to get students who are almost always forward-looking. That's the MIT mantra, forward. My goal was to get them to appreciate the value occasionally of looking backward, to figure out what's not as obvious as they thought it was. And so I think this, you're right, not a research project, but for the students who are going to go on and become researchers in one thing or another, I think what they've learned from this class will be extremely valuable, in part because of the interdisciplinary piece, right? Learning to have multiple conversations in play. I think in part because of the flexibility piece. I really agree with this idea that, most of what we teach, it's set in advance, it's on a piece of paper, it's called the syllabus, we don't deviate from it, this is how the course is going to work. And we're not really teaching our students very much about how the world works, because the world is always about what happens that you didn't plan for. And I think that doing this kind of project is definitely an education in the unexpected. And we don't really build that into our curriculum very much. In fact, I think we often feel guilty about it. So this was a tension between my colleague Jeff and myself. Every time the syllabus changed, Jeff was nervous. And every time the syllabus changed for me, I felt like, yes, this is what's supposed to be happening. And I think it was actually because I've been working on this Foch-Tour project for so long, where I have to say, nothing is ever the way we plan it, ever. and I've really come to appreciate that. So it was a tension even for us as faculty colleagues, that I felt comfortable with the constant change. My colleague, this is his first time ever doing anything like this, and he felt extremely uncomfortable with the fact that the syllabus kept changing.
Issue that I would like to ask you is, do you think the way that we have most of our courses regarding, we have a theoretical part of course and laboratory or practical classes, we might need to rethink about the way this division is, or if we need to have this distinguished part in order to be able to create a course that has all the freedom that you mentioned.
So, I mean, you have raised, I think, a number of really important obstacles for innovation in education. I mean, the university is the most conservative institution, I think, on earth. We had to present a syllabus in advance to a curriculum review committee, and we had to convince them that, you know, what we were doing was legitimate. And there were definitely people who said, you know, you're going to take students to the hobby shop and you're going to give them history credit, right? I mean, people said that. And, you know, and so for that audience, we downplayed the hobby shop and we, you know, we emphasized how much history we were going to be doing. And then, of course, the course changed anyway. And we don't intend to tell the curriculum committee, oh, by the way, we didn't actually teach the course we told you we were going to teach. We're just going to hope they don't notice. I don't think this is about quality. I think it's about rigidity, and that, you know, we have a way of doing things. And, you know. So one of the reasons I'm involved in this liberal studies and engineering project, again, not as an engineer but as a historian, is precisely because I want our engineering students to have more access to history courses, not less. You know, wherever you are, you have to push at whatever the limits are.
What Anna was saying. As I tried to make clear, I come from an institution in which we were lucky enough that the rectorate of the university allowed us to completely recreate the curriculum so that we could have project curricular units, and associated to those project curricular units we have courses which are taught in 4-hour-long classes, one morning, one afternoon, to give us the necessary flexibility. Those courses are meant to be articulated with the project, and the overall group of project plus associated courses makes up what we call a thematic module, because each one of these is dedicated to a theme within the program. So this is the way to go. So, but we were lucky enough to do that. And that's just one way of creating the right environment to be able to do project-based learning in the curriculum. But having said that, when we started thinking about changing the curriculum, which was in '98, by the way, we took 3 years rethinking our curriculum, and again, we also had staff development workshops so that our staff would be prepared to run these kind of methods. Before doing that, I myself was a bit skeptical about how it would turn out, how it would work. So I asked the director of my school to allow me to, in the timetable, in the schedule students had, to join the theoretical class together in sequence with the lab class. And so I had 3.5 hours in which there were no boundaries. I talked to the students, I explained them what I intended to do, and I actually ended up running a problem-based learning unit that year in a very traditional environment without much fuss, only asking for permission and justifying that this could be a way for me to test out these new methodologies. So with a bit of imagination, with some help from the boards and from help from the management of the institutions, it is possible, even in at current setting, without changing the status quo so much, to try out new things and to try out and innovate new things. Regarding research and involving students in research, I think some of you concentrated too much on the fact that what Professor Ann was talking about was building something that has already been built, and so some of you might not consider that as research, might consider that as recreation to some extent, but that hasn't to be so. You could pick up a problem for which you want an answer, and you turn that into a project which you can then use with your students. Of course, you have to be aware of the fact that if you are using it, you are dealing with undergraduate students, there are limits what they can do, how far they can go, but all those things need to be prepared, discussed in advance, and carefully taken care of. But if you look, for instance, for applied research, you can develop. We nowadays have companies coming to us and telling us, look, we really need it to build this kind of machine to do this and that, which we can't find in the market, or if we find those machines that are so expensive that it's impossible for us to buy. And we've used those ideas as projects for our third-year students, and we've developed some of these machines in cooperation with companies. So it is possible. Is this research? Yes, I think it is. It's applied research, so I think it's possible.